What if everything you've ever faced, the moments of doubt, the crushing defeats, the quiet nights of questioning, were not random? What if those very moments were divinely orchestrated as part of a grand plan? One designed not to break you, but to shape you into someone extraordinary. What if all of it was God's way of preparing you, His chosen one, for a purpose greater than anything you've ever imagined? Imagine this. You are not an ordinary person living an ordinary life. You are here, in this moment, because you've been chosen. Yes, chosen, handpicked by God Himself to be a light in the darkness, a voice in the wilderness, a force of change in a world that so desperately needs it. Doesn't that stir something deep within you? Let me take you to a story from the Bible, one that might resonate with how you're feeling right now. Imagine Moses, a simple shepherd wandering in the wilderness. His life seemed small, unremarkable, even insignificant. But then, one day, he sees something extraordinary. A bush engulfed in flames, yet it is not consumed. And from the fire, God speaks. He calls Moses by name and gives him a mission so grand, so terrifying, that Moses is paralyzed with self-doubt. Moses questions, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" Exodus 3:11. Can you feel the weight of that question? Who am I? How many times have you asked yourself the same thing? And yet God's response is simple but profound. I will be with you. That moment was not about Moses' abilities or his qualifications. It was about God's calling and Moses' willingness to step forward. And now let me ask you something. Have you ever felt that quiet tug in your soul? Maybe it's a longing to do something more meaningful with your life. Maybe it's an unshakable restlessness, like there's something important you're meant to do, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Or maybe it's a whisper, a voice so faint yet so persistent, telling you to rise higher, to step out of the ordinary, and to claim the extraordinary purpose God has placed within you. You see, you're not here by accident. You're here because that whisper, that tug, that longing is no coincidence. It's a divine invitation. God is calling you to awaken, to live fully, to walk boldly into the purpose He created for you. But here's the thing, you don't have to do it alone. Today, we are going to uncover 3 transformative secrets. Secrets rooted in divine wisdom, drawn from the pages of the Bible, and reflected in the celestial harmony of Libra's symbolism. These secrets are designed to help you awaken your spirit, restore balance in your life, and align with the destiny God has prepared for you. But before we dive into this incredible journey, I want to invite you to take a moment. If this message is already resonating with you, if it feels like it's speaking directly to your heart, I encourage you to pause and act. Like this video to let others know that this message matters. Subscribe to join our growing community of seekers and believers who, like you, are ready to embrace their divine calling. And share your thoughts in the comments below, because your words might be the light that inspires someone else to take their first step towards spiritual awakening. So stay with me. Together, we're about to embark on a journey of discovery, transformation, and purpose. This is your moment to awaken to the truth of who you are. One of God's chosen ones, destined for something far greater than you ever dared to dream. Let's begin. In the vast and infinite canvas of the cosmos, Libra shines as a radiant symbol of balance, justice, and harmony. It reminds us of the delicate equilibrium that governs not just the stars, but our very lives. This is not a coincidence, it's a divine design. Libra teaches us to find steadiness amidst chaos, to seek justice tempered with mercy, and to strive for harmony in a world that often feels fractured. But what makes this symbolism so powerful is that it aligns perfectly with biblical truths that have guided humanity for centuries. Proverbs 16:11 declares, "A just balance and scales are the Lord's. All the weights in the bag are His work." Think about that for a moment. This verse speaks of God's perfection in balance. Not just physical balance, but spiritual and moral balance as well. His scales are unwavering, His justice is perfect, and His design for harmony flows through every part of creation. But what does this mean for us? For you, it means that when your life feels out of sync, when you're overwhelmed by struggles or weighed down by uncertainty, God's desire is to restore balance, to align you with His perfect plan. And yet so many of us feel lost. There's a restlessness that stirs within, a gnawing sense that something is missing. Do you feel it too? That longing for clarity, for purpose, for peace. It might show up as feelings of inadequacy, a sense that you're not enough. Or maybe it's the weight of directionlessness, like you're wandering without a clear path. And then there are moments of sheer overwhelm, when life's demands seem impossible to manage. These struggles can feel isolating, like you're the only one wrestling with them. But you're not. These feelings aren't signs of failure, they're signs of a deeper spiritual calling. That restlessness you feel isn't meant to discourage you. It's meant to awaken you. It's God's way of nudging you towards something greater, something extraordinary. The discomfort is not a punishment, it's preparation. It's an invitation to step into the purpose you were created for. Let me share a story from the Bible that reflects this beautifully. The story of Gideon in Judges 6:11-16. Gideon was an ordinary man, living in fear and hiding from his enemies. He didn't see himself as a leader or a hero. In fact, he felt the opposite. He saw himself as weak, insignificant, and utterly unqualified. But God didn't see Gideon the way Gideon saw himself. When the angel of the Lord appeared to him, He called Gideon by his divine identity, not his current state. "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Can you imagine the confusion Gideon must have felt in that moment? A mighty warrior? He didn't feel mighty. He didn't feel capable. He doubted himself and questioned God's choice. But here's the thing. God's calling wasn't about Gideon's abilities or his feelings of inadequacy. It was about God's power working through him. Gideon didn't have to be perfect. He just had to be willing. And the same is true for you. You may feel like you're not enough, like your weaknesses, doubts, or mistakes disqualify you from being used by God. But they don't. In fact, those very struggles might be the reason you were chosen. Because when you lean into God's strength, He equips you with everything you need. Just like Gideon, you are more than your doubts, more than your limitations. You are chosen, called, and equipped by God for a purpose greater than you can imagine. So, what do we do with this restlessness? How do we turn the chaos into clarity, the doubt into direction? In the next section, I'm going to reveal 3 transformative secrets that can help you. These secrets are not mere ideas. They're rooted in timeless truths, drawn directly from the Bible, and mirrored in the cosmic wisdom of Libra. They hold the power to awaken your spirit, restore balance to your life, and align you with God's divine purpose. These secrets aren't just for the extraordinary few. They're for you, no matter where you're starting from. No matter how far you feel you've strayed, this is your moment. Secret 1. Finding balance through faith and action. Balance. It's a concept that feels elusive, doesn't it? In our fast-paced, chaotic lives, we often find ourselves pulled in 100 different directions, trying to meet expectations, chase dreams, and navigate challenges, all while wondering, how can I find peace in the midst of all this? But here's the truth. Balance is not just a nice idea or a luxury for a few. Balance is a divine principle. It's part of God's perfect design for how we're meant to live, a sacred rhythm that brings clarity, peace, and fulfillment. In the heavens, Libra stands as a celestial reminder of this truth. Its scales symbolize the harmony we are called to embody, a harmony that touches every aspect of our lives. Balance between faith and action, between ambition and humility, between giving to others and caring for ourselves. This isn't just an astrological concept, it's a biblical truth. God Himself emphasizes the importance of balance in James 2:26, where it says, "Faith without works is dead." Think about those words for a moment. Faith is essential. It's the cornerstone of our relationship with God. It's where we find hope, direction, and strength. But faith alone, without action, is incomplete. It becomes stagnant, a beautiful idea with no real-world impact. On the other hand, action without faith can leave us feeling drained, aimless, and disconnected from our higher purpose. It's only when faith and action work together in perfect harmony that we experience true spiritual growth. This principle of balance is beautifully illustrated in the story of King Solomon. Imagine this. Two women stand before him, both claiming to be the mother of the same child. The tension is palpable, the stakes unimaginably high. Solomon is faced with a dilemma that demands both wisdom and balance. Justice and compassion must work hand in hand, and in that moment, guided by divine wisdom, Solomon proposes a solution so startling that it reveals the truth instantly. By suggesting the child be divided, Solomon not only uncovers the true mother, but demonstrates the profound power of balancing justice with mercy. This story isn't just an account of ancient wisdom. It's a call to each of us. In our own lives, we are constantly faced with decisions that require balance. We juggle responsibilities, dreams, relationships, and faith, often feeling as though one must be sacrificed for the other. But God's design for balance doesn't demand sacrifice. It invites alignment. Now let's pause and reflect on your own life. Where do you feel out of sync? Maybe you're pursuing professional success with all your energy, but you've realized that in the process, your spiritual life has taken a back seat. Or perhaps you've been so focused on serving others, giving your time, your energy, your love, that you've neglected your own health and well-being. Or maybe you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, consumed by self-care, to the point that you've forgotten the joy and purpose of giving. The first step to restoring balance is awareness. Take a moment to examine the areas of your life where you feel disconnected or overwhelmed. Are you overly focused on one thing at the expense of another? Are your actions aligned with your faith, or are they driven by fear, doubt, or the pressure to meet worldly expectations? Once you've identified an area of imbalance, commit to making a change. This isn't about fixing everything overnight. Balance is a journey, not a destination. It's about taking small, intentional steps each day to bring your life into alignment with God's purpose. For example, if your work has consumed your time and left little room for God. Start by setting aside just 5 minutes each morning to pray or read a Bible verse. Let that moment be a grounding force that reminds you who you are and whose you are. If you've been so focused on others that you're running on empty, make self-care a priority. Not as an act of indulgence, but as an act of stewardship over the body and mind God has given you. And if you've been so inwardly focused that you've lost sight of the needs of those around you, take a step outward. Look for a way to serve, whether it's helping a neighbor, volunteering, or simply offering a kind word to someone in need. Balance isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. It's about tuning your life to God's rhythm and trusting Him to guide your steps. It's not a one-time effort, but a daily practice. A continuous journey of growth, reflection, and recalibration. Remember, when you find balance, you create space for God's blessings to flow freely into your life. Without it, you're either running on empty or spinning in circles, unable to move forward. But with balance, you're positioned to thrive, to grow, and to fulfill the purpose God has placed on your life. So take this first secret to heart. Reflect on your life, identify where balance is missing, and take one step today to restore it. Whether it's reconnecting with your faith, prioritizing your well-being, or shifting your focus outward, every small step matters. And as you begin to align your life with God's design, watch how He moves in ways you never thought possible. Balance isn't just a principle. It's the foundation for a life of purpose, peace, and divine alignment. Let this be the start of something extraordinary. Secret 2. Trusting God's perfect timing. Patience. It's a word that can stir up both peace and frustration, especially when we're waiting for something we deeply desire. Libra's wisdom, with its focus on balance and harmony, teaches us that patience is not just about waiting. It's about trusting in God's divine timing. In a world that pushes us to act quickly, to make things happen right now, it can be difficult to understand why we sometimes have to wait. But here's the beautiful truth. Waiting isn't passive. It's active, purposeful, and part of God's grand design for our lives. Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." This isn't just a poetic thought, it's a divine truth. God has set a time for everything in your life. There is a season for your dreams, for your breakthroughs, and for your healing. And while it may feel like things aren't moving or unfolding in the way you expected, this verse reminds us that God's plans are never delayed. They're always right on time. Think about the story of Abraham and Sarah. For years, they had carried a promise from God, a promise that they would have a son. But time passed, and they grew older, and the promise seemed more and more impossible. How many times do we find ourselves in situations like this, where we're holding on to a promise, but feeling the weight of time and waiting? Abraham and Sarah felt that too. There were moments when they doubted, moments when they wondered if they had misunderstood God's promise. Yet, in Genesis 21, Psalm 1-2, we read this powerful truth. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as He had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what He had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Isn't that incredible? Abraham and Sarah waited years, decades even. It wasn't an easy wait. It wasn't a wait filled with certainty, but one filled with questions, doubts, and fears. Yet, at the appointed time, God fulfilled His promise. And not just any time, the right time, the timing that would bring the most glory to God, and the perfect season for their Son to be born into the world. What appeared to be a long delay was actually God's preparation for something far greater than they could imagine. Now, how does this apply to you? Maybe you're in a season of waiting right now. Perhaps you've been praying for months or even years for a breakthrough in your health, your relationships, or your career, and yet nothing has changed. You may be wondering if God has forgotten about you, or if perhaps you're just not worthy of the promises He's made to you. But the truth is, God is working in ways you cannot see. Just like the roots of a tree grow deep and strong before it bursts forth with fruit, God is deepening your faith, strengthening your patience, and preparing you for what is to come. We are often taught that when we face delays, something is wrong. But in God's kingdom, delays are often divine redirections. They are the moments when God is getting everything in place for something bigger, something better. It's in the waiting that He molds us into who we are meant to be. One of the most powerful ways you can surrender to God's perfect timing is by choosing to trust Him with your worries and fears. The next time you feel yourself growing impatient, anxious, or doubtful, take a moment to stop. Breathe deeply. In that moment, surrender one worry to God. Speak it out in prayer. Lord, I trust your timing. I surrender this worry to you. Whether it's a desire for a new job, a relationship, or a breakthrough in your health, take that burden off your shoulders and place it in His hands. Imagine how your heart will feel as you let go of that control. Instead of carrying the weight of the world on your own, you're handing it over to the one who knows exactly when the right time will come, the one who is not only aware of your needs, but has already prepared the perfect solution. This act of surrender will bring peace to your heart, knowing that God is working behind the scenes and He is preparing you for the moment when everything will come together. Here's a daily practice you can start today. Every morning, before you step into your day, take a moment to reflect on the one worry or concern that weighs heavily on you. It could be something you're waiting for, something you're unsure about, or something that's causing you stress. Take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, and say, God, I surrender this to you. I trust that you will make all things beautiful in your time. Do this every day, and you will start to feel a shift in your spirit. You'll begin to understand that waiting isn't a waste. It's a beautiful process of aligning with God's perfect plan. Remember, God's timing is always better than ours. While we may want to rush ahead, detail, and make things happen in our own time, God knows exactly when the right moment will arrive. And just like with Abraham and Sarah, when that moment comes, it will be more than worth the wait. You are not just waiting for something to happen. You are being prepared for the greatness that is about to unfold. So trust in God's perfect timing. Let go of your worry and embrace the peace that comes when you allow Him to lead you every step of the way. Secret 3: Awakening through self-reflection and God's presence. Spiritual awakening isn't something that happens in a single instant. It's a continuous journey of transformation that starts deep within us. It begins with a moment of inner reflection, when we pause, look inward, and listen to God's voice speaking quietly to our hearts. Libra's wisdom, with its focus on balance and introspection, teaches us that true spiritual growth often begins in the quiet moments, the spaces where we allow ourselves to be still and hear God's guidance. It's about finding harmony not only in our outer lives but in our inner world where God's presence resides. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to lose touch with that stillness. We are constantly surrounded by noise, social media, work, personal distractions, and before we know it, we've allowed the world's demands to drown out the voice of God. But here's the thing: in the quiet, in the moments when we truly slow down and listen, that's where God speaks to us most profoundly. It's in those times of reflection and solitude that we hear His call to us, guiding us towards spiritual awakening and the purpose He has for our lives. One of the most powerful examples of this type of awakening comes from the story of Saul on the road to Damascus. Saul was a man who was deeply devoted to his beliefs, so much so that he persecuted Christians, believing he was doing God's work. But in one profound moment, everything changed. In Acts 9:1-22, we read that Saul was traveling to Damascus when suddenly a blinding light flashed around him and he fell to the ground. He heard a voice say, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" In that instant, Saul was struck blind. But his spiritual blindness was far greater than his physical blindness. God's question to Saul was a powerful moment of self-reflection. Saul had never stopped to consider the impact of his actions, nor had he ever truly listened to God's voice. This was his moment of awakening, when God showed him the truth, and Saul's life was completely transformed. He went from being a man who was blind to the truth to becoming Paul, one of the greatest apostles who ever lived. His entire purpose, his calling, and his mission were all revealed to him in that single, life-changing moment of reflection. This powerful story illustrates how God can call us to awaken in unique, individual ways. Just as Saul was confronted with a life-altering encounter, each of us has our own personal journey toward awakening. Sometimes this comes through a dramatic revelation, like Saul's encounter with Jesus. Other times, it comes more quietly, through moments of introspection, when we take the time to ask ourselves deep, soul-searching questions. But in every case, God's voice is there, waiting for us to listen. God calls each of us to awaken, to rise above our doubts and distractions, and to step into the purpose He has already laid out for us. But how often do we miss His call? Because we're too busy, too distracted, or too caught up in our own plans. The key to spiritual awakening is not just waiting for God to show up. It's about creating space for Him. It's about taking the time to pause, reflect, and invite His presence into our hearts, trusting that in His stillness, we'll hear His voice. Now, I want to invite you to join me in a moment of reflection right now. Wherever you are, take a deep breath. Close your eyes for a moment. Let go of the distractions of your day and just be still. In this moment of peace, ask God, "What are you calling me to do today?" Don't rush the answer. Allow yourself to sit in the quiet. Let your heart be open and receptive to what He might speak to you. It might not come as a loud voice or an immediate answer, but trust that He is speaking in the stillness. It could be a word of encouragement, a deep sense of peace, or a quiet prompting to take a specific action. Take a few moments to just sit in silence. Allow yourself to really listen. What is God saying to you right now? This simple act of quiet reflection opens the door for spiritual awakening. It's in these moments when we set aside time to listen that we make room for God to speak. Just like Saul on the road to Damascus, it's in the stillness that we experience God's power, His presence, and His divine purpose. This practice of reflection doesn't have to be a grand, dramatic event. It doesn't require a special location or a long ritual. It's about the simplicity of pausing in the busyness of life to tune in to God's presence. The more you practice this, the more attuned you become to His voice, and the more you'll recognize His guidance in every area of your life. It could be in the way you handle a challenging situation, the way you love others, or the small everyday decisions you make. When we reflect and invite God into those moments, we are constantly aligning ourselves with His will and stepping deeper into His purpose. Remember, spiritual awakening is not a one-time event. It's a journey, and it's a journey that requires us to be intentional about carving out time for self-reflection and for seeking God's presence. It's about choosing to listen, choosing to pause, and choosing to trust that in the quiet moments, God is revealing His plans for us. So take this time today to make space for God. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and ask Him to reveal His calling for you. Trust that in this sacred moment of reflection, you are awakening to a deeper connection with the one who knows you better than anyone else, the one who is guiding you toward the beautiful purpose He has for your life. Let this moment be the beginning of a powerful journey of spiritual awakening, one that will transform not just your life, but also the world around you. Now that we've uncovered the three powerful secrets, balance, timing, and reflection, it's time to tie everything together and step boldly into the life God has called you to live. These aren't just abstract concepts or vague ideas. They are divine principles that will transform your life if you apply them with faith and intention. They are the keys to unlocking your true potential, the doorway to the spiritual awakening you've been longing for. You've learned how balance isn't just about finding equilibrium in life. It's about aligning yourself with God's will. You've seen how trusting God's perfect timing is not about waiting passively, but about waiting with purpose, knowing that He's preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine. And you've discovered that spiritual awakening starts with reflection, taking time to hear God's voice in the quiet of your heart and allowing Him to guide you toward your unique calling. Now, here's the incredible truth. These three secrets have led us to one powerful conclusion. You are already equipped to fulfill your purpose. You might not feel like you have everything you need, but trust me when I say this. God has already placed everything within you. Your faith, your gifts, your unique experiences, and His Holy Spirit. All of it is more than enough to fulfill the calling on your life. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You don't need to have all the answers or have your life perfectly aligned. God has already equipped you with exactly what you need. And here's the most important part. All you have to do is trust Him. Trust that He has a plan for you. Trust that His timing is always perfect. Trust that He is guiding you, even in the moments when you don't feel sure. The first step is always the hardest, but it's also the most important. The moment you take that first step of faith, you'll see that God has been waiting for you to move. He's been preparing the way. He's already there, waiting to meet you on the other side of your obedience. Let me tell you, when you trust in God and take that step, things will begin to shift. The doubts you have will be replaced with confidence in His promises. The fear that has held you back will begin to lose its grip on your heart, and the vision of the life you've been dreaming of will begin to unfold in ways you couldn't have imagined. This is the beauty of God's plan for you. It's bigger, it's more beautiful, and it's more impactful than anything you could ever dream up on your own. But here's the thing, this journey doesn't end today. In fact, it's just beginning. You've taken the first step, and now you're on the path to discovering even more of what God has for you. There is so much more to learn, so much more to experience, and so many more moments of awakening ahead. A menudo nos agotamos tratando de hacer que las relaciones funcionen o buscando amor en lugares que nos dejan vacíos. Pero cuando cambiamos nuestro enfoque de tratar de controlar nuestras circunstancias a buscar el reino de Dios, lo invitamos a que tome el control. And let me tell you something else. This is not a journey you're meant to take alone. We're here together on this journey, and God has placed a community of like-minded seekers around you. We're walking this path together, and together we can encourage one another, pray for one another, and lift each other up as we grow in our faith and discover the incredible purpose God has for each of us as for that. So, as you continue on your journey, don't forget that you're not alone. We are all in this together, and God is with you every step of the way. But the journey isn't over. Not by a long shot. There's so much more to uncover. The next chapter of your story is waiting to be written, and God is ready to reveal the next steps in your journey. If this message has stirred something deep within you, don't let it stop here. Keep seeking, keep reflecting, and keep trusting God. He's not done with you yet. There's so much more to discover, and we are here to walk with you every step of the way. So, if this message has resonated with you, if you felt that stirring in your spirit today, don't stop now. Keep pushing forward. Keep stepping into the life God has for you. We've just uncovered the 3 transformative secrets to spiritual awakening. Secrets that have the power to realign your life and bring you closer to your divine purpose. But now, it's time for you to take action. You've learned about balance, the power of trusting God's timing, and the importance of self-reflection. But these aren't just words to ponder. They are principles that can guide you toward a life of spiritual awakening and deeper connection with God. So, I want to challenge you right now. Pick one of these secrets and make it your focus today. Maybe you feel like your life is out of balance, and you're ready to start creating harmony in your relationships or your personal journey. Or perhaps you've been waiting for God's timing in a specific situation, and today, you're choosing to trust that He is at work, even in the waiting. Maybe it's time for you to step into self-reflection, taking a moment to be still and listen for God's voice, asking Him what He is calling you to do today. It doesn't matter which secret you choose. The key is to take one small, intentional step toward God. Start with something simple. Maybe it's taking 10 minutes today to pause and pray, or setting aside time in your busy schedule to reflect on where you need balance. No matter how small the action may seem, it's still progress. And I promise you, each step will bring you closer to the life you're meant to live. Now imagine the difference that even one small step can make. Not just in your life, but in the lives of those around you. This message could be the spark someone else needs to begin their own journey of spiritual awakening. That's why I invite you to share this video with someone who could use these insights. Maybe there's a friend, a family member, or even someone you've just met who is struggling with trust, balance, or feeling disconnected from their spiritual journey. Sharing this video could plant a seed that helps them take the first step toward the life they were created for. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to truly thank you. Thank you for being here today, for listening with an open heart, and for allowing these truths to resonate with your spirit. Your presence in this space is a blessing, and together we are creating a community of spiritual seekers who are here to support, uplift, and inspire one another. The journey of spiritual awakening is never meant to be walked alone, and your willingness to be a part of this community means so much. As you continue your journey, remember this: you are not alone. God is with you every step of the way, guiding you, strengthening you, and loving you through each moment of your life. His presence is constant, even in the times when you may feel lost or uncertain. With every step you take, you are becoming more and more aligned with His will. And here's the most beautiful part: your journey has only just begun. The steps you take today, no matter how small, are setting the foundation for the incredible things God has planned for your life. Don't rush the process. Trust that He is leading you in His perfect timing, and know that you are moving closer to the purpose you were born to fulfill. So, as you move forward, carry this truth with you. You are deeply loved, you are chosen, and the best is yet to come. Keep going, keep trusting, and know that God's got you every step of the way.